Alright everyone, one of the trickiest kinds of bugs that you can get in Scratch is when you have signals coming in that are caused often by other sprites, but just as often by the player. And those signals interrupt the code in progress and tell it to do something immediately. And sometimes what happens is, if it gets a couple of signals like that in rapid succession, then it doesn't have time to finish the response to the first of those signals before the second signal comes in. And the result is you get some kind of mishmashed process where the process just stops halfway through, or it kind of completes and restarts but only does half a thing. And those can often be quite difficult to diagnose, but I bet you when you see something that's really weird like that, it's nearly always because of this interruption behavior. Fortunately, there's a pretty general method for solving these problems. So what you want to do generally is you want to avoid having too much going on underneath a signal. So in this case, what we have is we have damage knight, and damage knight calls other functions like lose armor. So it does a few things itself, and it calls lose armor, and then lose armor is itself quite complex. And so you got this cascade of complex effects all occurring underneath this signal. And then if that gets interrupted, it can cause a catastrophe. So the good way to solve it is to take out this complex process and then put something in that schedules the complex process. And I'll show you what I mean. So make a variable, schedule damage for this sprite only. And when you spawn the knight, reset this variable, so schedule damage to 0. And then what happens is whenever you get zapped, you schedule a bit of damage. You say, hey, put this in the queue, this needs to happen. Whoops, that shouldn't be set, that should be changed. So change schedule damage by 1. So add 1 to the number of damages that need to occur. And then that's it. That's all that this does. It's finished. So that it doesn't do enough to be interrupted by the next one. It's over so fast, it's very difficult for a second signal to come in and interrupt it. But now we need to find a place for the schedule to be read and enacted. So the best place for that is the main loop. So it's called knight move in this case. I don't know how this got here. Well, what you want to do is you want to put this in here somewhere. So you want to check every cycle whether the knight needs to take some damage. And so you put in a little if then, and it says if schedule damage is greater than 0. So if the wizard has hit the knight, then go through that complex process where you change the graphics and so on. And if in that whole process you have to perform the animation of the collapse of the chainmail, then complete that whole thing before starting a new loop. But that's the important part. This is going to complete the whole thing before the loop comes around again, and then says, well, is there still some damage? Well, I'm going to do it again. And so it puts all the damage into an orderly queue. Instead of them all kind of coming in at once, just as soon as they arrive, whenever the wizard happens to zap you, and interrupting one another. Instead of that, as they come in, they're put in an orderly queue, and then we go through the queue one by one, and you complete the whole process before you go to the next element in the queue. That's effectively what this is doing. Now, one other thing, we also have to ensure that in damage knight, we change the schedule damage by -1. Otherwise, once the damage is added to the schedule, it just stays there, and as a result, the schedule will keep damaging the knight over and over and over again, whether you're hitting the knight or not. We don't want that. We want one hit to result in one scheduled damage, and then once that scheduled damage is done, we want it removed from that. It's okay to put it at the beginning because we've taken it off the schedule and we've started the process. Okay, let's try that out.
Ouch! Yum yum! Ouch!
Okay, that was much more orderly. I like that. And I think that's all we're going to do on the knight for the time being. Do feel free to look through the sound effects and maybe add some sound effects, some kind of clunk noises as the lightning hits the knight's armor or something like that. Play around as you like, but that's all I'm going to do, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for listening, and if you find this video useful, please hit like and subscribe.